In this video, I will explain to you how I have made my hands for my enemy model, as well as how I placed it onto my main model. In this video, it will also explain the legs, and the other video on the other page will explain my eye patch. Making the hand was a hard choice because I didn't know how I would want to do it. Was I gonna keep it in a simple design, or was I really gonna go ahead and just make a realistic hand? Of course, following my concept art, he has 4 fingers, and they're not really realistic. They are big blobs of hands. I tried to keep it in similar vein to that, but I wish I could do better. The design that ended up coming here wasn't exactly professionally done, but it's good for my first time. At first, I just created 3 fingers for the enemy, and then after a while of thinking, I decided that I would go with a 4 finger too. As shown in this video, I am designing now the first finger, and if we go ahead and extend it outwards, it would be a blockier design, of course, but it would be better later on after I smooth things out a bit more. In this part, I have added the wrist section of my hand, and the wrist section was used to connect my hand to my main enemy model's arm. In here, I have done all 3 fingers in their design. I tried keeping them simple so that I didn't have to worry about when I'm going to be designing the animations and the skeleton. I didn't want to make sure I have too many fingers, so I didn't have to have too many joints. In this part, I have added the thumb by extruding the middle section of the model, as shown here. I removed the edges in this inner circle section. And then I grabbed the face and I extruded it outwards to give it that design. Of course, the thumb is more circular than the rest of it, but if I were to actually work on the hands a lot more, I would, of course, make my hands look up 10 times better. But this is my first time ever actually doing a main enemy model, therefore, I have to cut back on some quality. And I only have limited time. I grabbed the arm by creating a hole design on the side of the enemy, and once I did the hole design, I went ahead and grabbed the edges and I extruded outwards. Of course, at first I didn't realize that was happening, so I just went ahead and just changed it forward facing, and as seen here, it's very rigid, and I did want to keep it rigid because I need to make sure I can add, elbow bends, and then also make sure the hand will connect fully without having to deal with other edges messing it up. The leg part, I did pretty much the same thing, created a leg circular design in similar vein, and then I extruded it outwards to work on. the leg. And here I had the same problem where the leg wouldn't be straight, so I had to straighten it out for, as seen in this previous section, adding some knee sections so that I can actually bend my leg would be good to do. This video will show off a quick design of how I did my leg, rather than showing off how I did it in clear detail. I simply extruded outwards, and then I first tried rotating, but that did not work out. But then what I did afterwards was I just moved everything downwards, and then grabbed the faces of this edge, and then I went ahead and extruded that out to create the design that is similar to the other foot as seen in the right side. I had a few problems where the edges were kind of not connecting, so later on I had to deal with the problem of removing the faces of certain areas, and then I had to bridge these two together so that they'd actually be connected and not have tiny little edges in between. As shown in the video, if I rotate, as seen here, I noticed a tiny little mistake there of how, I noticed there that there was a tiny little edge error there. So I had to remove that to fix it, and then I had to go ahead and bridge the edges together and create the leg. I also went ahead and extruded upwards so I can actually add the bendage by grabbing the edges of the foot here, and then I pulled it back just to add a simple design like that. Of course, in this version, this edge is lowered a lot more, so I'd have to just deal with that. And in this part, I grabbed all these edges here and extruded them outwards to create that design. In this recreation, I kind of failed on recreating it properly, but when I did it in actuality, I basically just had to detach the edges together, move it backwards, and then I just bridged the gaps together. I might be able to do it on this video, I'm not sure. No, I did not. Okay. In this part, I simply just created a simple mouth design and made it a hole so I can work on it outwards. So what I did was I grabbed the edge, extruded it, and then I pulled it backwards. And with that, I then connected the holes together so that it was not a hole anymore. I then grabbed the top parts of the sections, each, and then moved them downwards to shrink them into a design. It did not work out well, so what I had to do was instead, as seen in the video, I just shrunk the design to face like that, and then I pulled it outwards a bit, and then I extruded again to then work on the teeth. If I were to do this again, I would try and find out a better way of just making the teeth be having more teeth rather than having two simple teeth. Of course, there's a tiny little face on the parts of them, which is a slight problem, but it's not that big of an issue. I repeat the same process again, and that's how I did the other teeth. So from this video, you can see that I have completed pretty much the entire model, and I worked on the eye patch afterwards after I had connected the arms. if I were to go back now, I will go to the eye patch section to show you how I have done this. This one was the final design of the eye patch, and I had then connected it to the enemy model as a separate thing, so it is still just going to be connected. As seen in this video, if I head over to the beginning stretches of it, I started off by extruding the circular face design that was on the head here. After I had copied it and pasted it over again, it was a 2D version of that eye shape. I then extruded the edges to be outwards a bit more, and then also extruded it inwards so that the design could have more of a rounded edge. And then I also went ahead and filled the edges as a whole so that it would actually connect together, as seen here. Then I removed the two faces on two separate ends of the model, and I then extruded each of the edges separately so that they could the design could stretch out and design. Of course, as it is right now, this was the final textured version, so it messed up on here. But before I added the texture, it was just plain white design, and I simply just worked on all the way around the base model of the enemy so that it would look round enough. And what I had done is, while doing the edges part of it though, I had the eye patch connected to the enemy so that I could work my way around the enemy without having to worry about accidentally clipping the model inside the enemy or having it stretch out so far away, as seen in this part of the video. Of course, this is the rushed version of the eye patch, so it does not look as well as the main eye patch. I had some moments where I had to rotate the face because at sometimes the extrusion would mess up, and as seen there, some parts would just clip over each other like that. That is not what I wanted, so I had to go ahead and rotate the edge so that it was more forward facing so that I could continue on going around the enemy model. I did the same on the other side of the model, and then I connected the edges together. As seen here, this is what it looked like before. I had a circular design that was just flat, and then I extruded it across the edges to be a more 3D look by filling the hole and doing such and such. Of course, the previous design did not have each of the edges going into the center because it was just a flat 2D texture before. But I added the extra margins so that I could work on more detail and add more tries to my model. That is all for this week, and what I will be doing next week is I will be working on my pirate hat for the enemy, and I will also be continuing on by connecting the other hand to the other arm. And once those are all done, I will then work on texturing the base model and texturing the base hat. I believe I might be able to do them all in 1 week, but who knows? You will be able to know by next week anyway. That is all.